Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review, Honor Found in Decay, the latest studio LP from Neurosis.
Roses? You're getting pretty romantic there.
We both speak English, and English is your first language, and yet you misinterpret more than half of the things I say. Why?
Maybe.
I hate Count Your Chest Up. Well, this is Neurosis's 10th studio LP, and they're a California band with a career that has just been too long and too essential to modern metal to accurately sum up in a single review. But over the course of their career, they have showcased a pretty diverse set of influences, starting off with the metallic hardcore of bands like which showed up strongest on their early releases. And as they progressed, they started incorporating elements of sludge metal, doom metal, drone and noise, ambient music as well. They also started bringing in elements of acoustic instrumentation, arranged instrumentation, piano, strings, brass. Experimental rock acts like Swans were certainly a reference point, and definitely as Neurosis was growing and making their songs more multifaceted and lengthy, progressive rock was definitely an ingredient in the recipe as well. This led to Neurosis putting out some pretty diverse albums like A Sun That Never Sets and Times of Grace, increasing the amount of contrast between some of the slower, more quiet, just softer moments and the heavy parts in their music. Plus, as the band was increasing some elements of folk music in their tunes, frontman Scott Kelly was kind of blossoming not just as a metal frontman, but a bit of a singer-songwriter as well, changing up his vocal style in the process to this very overly gruff growl that he is not afraid to just put out there as the band is maybe playing something quiet or very forlorn. At this point in the band's career, they're pretty much simultaneously sticking to their heavy, mid-paced progressive sound and looking for different ways to ever so slightly tweak it. And on Honor Found in Decay, I did get the sounds I was expecting, but I did end up kind of wanting more. This is definitely one of Neurosis's most basic albums so far, which is not necessarily an insult. On this LP, Neurosis kind of forgoes the extra instrumentation, the arranged instrumentation that made previous releases such a journey. You do get the occasional synthesizer adding some texture behind some of the walls of guitar sound, and the closing track on here does have some strings on it. But for the most part, the band writes some pretty lengthy metal songs with kind of a loud, soft dynamic to them, suddenly changing from one to the other in a way that reminded me a lot of Mogwai's early work, but most definitely with a different emotion to it, instead of exploding into something epic and triumphant. When Neurosis just blows up, it's very dreary. And the way the drum beats move against this very low-end guitar distortion, it feels kind of tribal. There's something inherently folky about the chord progressions and the melodies that Neurosis works with on a handful of these tracks. The way that riff kind of repeats into oblivion, it just feels so archaic and kind of ritualistic, and Neurosis definitely goes on to enhance this folky flavor with a bagpipe interlude. Though I do think this LP makes this album a bit less intense for a Neurosis album, there's most definitely something kind of refreshing about the more straightforward and less obtuse direction that Neurosis is taking with this LP, because it's led to some of these tracks feeling kind of catchy, like the opening track, We All Rage in Gold. However, this new direction has also led to this LP being one of Neurosis's least diverse albums so far. By the third track on here, the way the band is specifically writing songs on this album becomes kind of obvious, especially if you've enjoyed most of their past material. And what experimental and ambient moments do show up on this LP feel purely ornamental and don't really add that much to the composition of the song, build that much tension for the song, like the introduction to the track Bleeding the Pigs, where Scott Kelly is morbidly musing over these very murky, echoing tones. And the way he's just delivering his vocals on that track, just the whole aura of this section of the song feels more campy than it does authentically dark or dramatic. Plus, the digital drone hanging behind all these sounds as the song is building just feels really weak as well. However, once the track progresses a little bit more and these harmonized guitar leads come in and the song really turns into a dirge, it's great. And that's really the extent of my issues on this LP. Though I didn't love this album, I did think it was pretty good and could definitely be an album enjoyed by both fans and newcomers, because while this album, in my opinion, did not amaze, it did meet expectations. And as far as the newcomer thing goes, it's not nearly as alienating as most albums in this style. Though I wish Neurosis brought a bit more variety across this full hour of music. I did think a lot of the tracks on here were legitimately great blends of just heavy, sludgy, doom-influenced metal and folk music too, with some tracks like Casting of Ages getting pretty psychedelic toward the end. I'm feeling a strong 6 to a light 7 on this LP. What did you think of it if you've given it a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? And what should I review next? Anthony Fantano, Neurosis, forever.